Thanks so much for speaking with me, Connie. Yeah, again, my first question, in its current form, what will it look like once we go back to work?
Well, it's first of all, I do not have a crystal ball, so I cannot tell you for sure. I can tell you what most people think, including myself, is going to happen is that we will not return back to the old way. So if you're a company where you were expected to be in the office 5 days, those are probably going to shrink. And there might be different kinds of flexibility. Most employees seem to want about 3 days a week, so that might be the standard. Of course, it will depend on the industry and the particular company. Some companies will continue to be fully remote or allow their employees to decide that as well. And there will be more of those than existed pre-COVID. There were some companies before who were all virtual. But I think that it probably is not going to be as widespread an adoption of all remote as people might have thought. I think we've had quite a roller coaster ride with the pandemic in terms of experiencing life working from home. And, it was a huge shock and adjustment last year when most of us had to suddenly convert to all remote. And at first we thought this is great. We can do a lot of things this way and the work is kept up. And now we're seeing a lot of the long-term effects of being separated physically from our coworkers. So I think there's a greater recognition of that, that there is ideally going to be some kind of balance or some kind of mix of in-person and remote. But again, the future is not fully realized yet. We don't really know exactly how that's going to happen. I think the best companies will not make any major commitments. They will start to make experiments, systematic experiments, and play around with the best way to do that. And so the essay I wrote was really to encourage organizations to take a more active role in helping balance both the employees' desire to have more time at home or working remotely in wherever they want to work from, so that they can get some of those benefits of flexibility in the work-life mix that they've been able to achieve with COVID. But at the same time, I think that if we just sort of throw up our hands and say, okay, well, let's let everybody make a decision for themselves, or every team make a decision for themselves, that we're going to see people continue to strain to find ways to coordinate the work and get the benefits of being there together when they are making a trip to the office.
Yeah, in your essay, you wrote that it would be better for companies to kind of set a set of ground rules instead of just leaving everything to employees and individual teams to decide. Can you explain why this might be better than just leaving everything up to the individual employee to decide how they want to work?
So one of the things I've been studying for a long time are team meetings and team interactions. And often team meetings are not enjoyed as much as perhaps managers would like. And one of the reasons they're not is because of the way they're scheduled and because of the expectations that go along with them. So they're often scheduled either in a haphazard way or in a way that doesn't really take into consideration what's needed for that particular meeting. So sort of an automatic way is why, for example, having a 1 hour block is standard and maybe you don't need that much time. So what I was trying to encourage employers to do is do something that I've been encouraging them to do when companies were fully on site in the office as well with their meetings, which is to think more broadly about how they're scheduled, when they're scheduled, who has to go to them. And then now a big question is going to be in what mode? Is it going to be remote? Is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be in person? And again, it's not because I love bureaucracy and red tape, it's because of the fact that I see the suffering that employees tend to bear when it's not done in a coordinated and thoughtful, intentional manner. The issue is that then employees have, pockmarked calendars full of these meetings. They have not enough time for deep thinking work. They also have days that stretch to 10, 12 hours long because of the accommodations needed to suit timing for people in different time zones or for the different, needs of the attendees. So, really my message is just more take advantage of this lull that we still are in for the most part, in deciding how to handle things post-COVID, and to start again thinking through like what are the implications from having more decisions made central, I want to say centrally, because I want to focus on coordination, but I also want to make sure it's not, the impression is not that I'm saying in an authoritative manner so that employees aren't consulted in those decisions. I think again, now is the time to be collecting lots of data, lots of input, and drawing some experiments from those, and trying to, you know, put those into place so they're ready to go.
In your essay, you mentioned things that needed to happen in person, things with multiple parties involved, things like, you know, onboarding or celebrations, versus things that would be better if they happen remotely or any combination of the two. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what would employers look to have in person, and what would employers better, it would be better for employers to have and leave remote? Uh, which of the two would be better for what tasks?
Yes, that's actually a framework that I'm working on, so I don't have that fully developed yet either. But I think, you know, a big factor to think about are, where are your moments when you need the social connection to be made among people. It is possible to do it remotely. You and I are having a nice conversation right now. I've never met you in person. I've never met half of my students, even more than half in person, but I feel I've gotten to know them. So it is possible to make those social connections, but there's no denying there's something about the energy that comes from being physically in the same space with people, being able to read the body language, being able to kind of relax a little bit more in those interactions. And so I would say, you know, the first thing I would look for, where are those sort of big, you know, events or turn points in the year that would be benefited by having people together, so they can not only get information and share ideas, but also get the social, you know, the social benefits of being together. So that might be a leadership retreat. That definitely, I think for onboarding, that's helpful, because for new people, you know, they're thirsty to make those connections and immerse themselves in the community. Celebrations, again, I mean, we've seen how unsatisfying in a lot of ways our celebrations are, whether it's for birthdays or graduations or big milestones, you know, to be doing it in this kind of screen. So those are things that I really think would be ideal to do in person if possible. But, you know, the other things that are more like updates, or maybe can be handled, decisions that can be handled in a way that is amenable to online or hybrid, you know, I think those are probably good candidates to put them into that other mode. So I think about this like when you have, you know, the thing where you have like a glass jar and they say, you know, look at the rocks, the big rocks, the medium-sized rocks, and then the pebbles. And you know, they said get all this material into that jar. And so this, what I'm really saying is to put the big rocks in first. You know, think about what are the things for your company that you want to spend the time in, the money in, and you know, get that community together. Put those on your calendar now. Put those in the jar. And then the second one will be, you know, the next level down. Maybe it's brainstorming sessions. Maybe it's, you know, when you need to rehearse for, say, a big presentation, like those might be your medium-sized rocks. Those may be more at the team level. Those should be put in next. And then, you know, the other things, again, you know, those little pebbles, do they need to go in the jar where, you know, you have the online or where you want everybody in person, or could they perhaps be kind of left out of the jar and let people make their own decisions on those? I'm okay with that too. I'm not, again, I want to be clear, I'm not trying to get away from people having autonomy, but right now everybody's just staring at their own jar, trying to figure out how to fill it up. And I just think that's incredibly inefficient, and it takes away from the time people should be spending, whether it's doing good things at work or doing good things outside of work. People are working way too long, way too hard because of some of these coordination costs.
Definitely. Well, that's all the questions I had for today. Thanks so much for speaking with me, Connie. This has been really helpful.
You're welcome, and thank you for featuring my work. Good
No,
luck with
thank you.
everything.
Thank you so much.